Hello everyone. So welcome back to another session wherein we'll be continuing with the second type of the question asked in the reading module. So let's see what type of question we are going to tackle today. So today we'll be considering the MCQ type questions. Alright. So this is a passage which is given to you, that is something related to travel books, and this is the entire passage. So let's first see how lengthy the passage is. So this is part 1, part 2, part 3. Okay, so first passage is at least for 3 parts and the total number of questions are 6. Okay, so let's start. So as per the rule, we are supposed to read the questions first. And how are we going to tackle the MCQ questions? So by just understanding about the keywords. So the keywords, the main important words asked in the question. So you can search these keywords in the passage, and this question is also following the chronology, wherein after you find the answer for the first question, the second answer will be followed by that. Okay, it won't be vice versa. So the first question is, what were most people traveling for in the early days? Second one, why did the author say writing travel books is also a mirror for travelers themselves? Third one, why were the imperial rulers especially interested in these travel stories? Fourth one, who was the largest group to record their spiritual trips during the post-classical era? Fifth one, during the early modern era, a large number of travel books were published to dash what? And the sixth one was the main theme of the passage. Alright, so let's start with the first question. Okay, so what were most people traveling for in the early days? So as mentioned, as per the title, we understand this is something related to traveling. There were travelers, right? So how their journey initiated and why were the people traveling? What were most people traveling for in the early days? So in the initial days, in the ancient times, right? So these are some of the synonyms related to early days, right? So what were most of the people? What was the purpose? Why were they traveling? So we can start with the initial lines. There are many reasons, so that is what is asked. So let's figure out for what reason people were traveling. So some travelers may have simply desired to satisfy curiosity about the larger world. Until recent times, however, travelers did start their journey for reasons other than mere curiosity. While the travelers' accounts give much valuable information of these foreign lands and provide a window for the understanding of the local cultures. So what are they doing? So they are traveling out of mere curiosity, and curiosity is for what? Is to know other people and places better, right? So that is what is curiosity about, and that is what is mentioned, that they are getting valuable information on the foreign lands, that is of the different places, and also to understand the local culture and the history. So that means they are understanding different people, right? So if you figure out that only cultures was the thing, so this answer, there are bright chances that you might answer option A, but this is wrong, right? They are not only understanding the cultures, so they are traveling so that they are exploring and getting valuable information about the foreign lands, that is different places, correct? And also understanding about the local cultures and the history, that is what they are traveling for, that is so that they are able to know other people also. So that means option C is the correct one, right? Now the second question, why did the author say writing travel books is also a mirror for travelers themselves? So as we continue, we have the words mirror to the traveler. So these are the keywords they are asking, right? So why did the author say this, that travel books are considered to be a mirror for the travelers? Why? Because the travelers reflect upon their own society and life, so that these accounts help them to have a better understanding of themselves, right? So that they are able to understand more about themselves. That means more about their society and their own life. Themselves, right? So that is about themselves, that is their society and their life. So that is what is the answer for the second question. Fair enough. So in the first paragraph itself, we got the answers for the first two questions. Clear? Now let's read the third question. Why were the imperial rulers especially interested in these travel stories? So now let's figure it out. Where is this word imperial? Rulers or something related to imperial. So let's figure. So we start scanning, right? So understanding themselves, this is done. So now fragmentary travels, Mesopotamia, Egypt. There's nothing mentioned about those specific places. After the formation of the large imperial states, we got the word imperial. In the classical world, travel accounts emerged as a prominent literary genre in many lands, and they held especially strong appeal for rulers desiring useful knowledge about their realms. Right? So, what are they doing? They are desiring so that they are able to, create a strong appeal, and they can desire for useful knowledge. So that is what is the answer for the fourth one, that is a desired knowledge. So we are getting the exact keywords, right? So now it's not that we are eliminating any option or anything. We are getting the direct answers, right? So we can understand, okay, this is where the desired knowledge is. So in A option, do we get that? No. B, no. C, no. Then what is the fourth option? Yes, they are talking about the desired knowledge. So that is why the imperial rulers, they used to travel. They used to develop the travel stories, so that they are having the desired knowledge of their empire. That is the imperial rulers, means what? The entire empire, right? So on the first page itself, on the initial few lines only, we are getting answers for the three questions. All are correct. I hope it has become easier for you to understand and answer the MCQ questions, right? Okay. So now let's move to the fourth question. So who was the largest group to record the spiritual trips during the post-classical era? So which group, which people, they recorded their spiritual trips, that is visiting shrines, or might be temples or mosques, or places of worship specifically when we are talking about during the post-classical era. So let's figure it out. So during the, yes, so we have the word the post-classical era. So here we are. So this is the paragraph, we might get the answer. Muslim merchants sought trading opportunities throughout much of the Eastern Hemisphere. They describe lands, peoples and commercial products of the Indian Ocean basin from the East Africa to Indonesia. And they supplied the first written accounts of the societies in the sub-Saharan West Africa. So who were they? They were the Muslim merchants, right? And they were the first one to give the account. So now let's continue. So whether merchants means what? Traders, right? So it's Muslim traders or might be Muslim pilgrims. So let's figure it out, whether A or B, which option is right. We have not come across Chinese Buddhists and neither Indian Buddhist teachers. So let's figure it out. While the merchants set out to search of trade and profit, devout Muslims travelled as pilgrims. So that means the Muslim pilgrims, they travelled to Mecca to make their Hajj and visit the holy sites of Islam. So who travelled? Like who did the spiritual trips? The Muslim traders, the Muslim merchants did the trips for commercial purpose. That is what is mentioned. So that they are able to develop their trade, their commerce, their business. For commercial products they used to travel, the merchant traders, Muslim traders. But the Muslim pilgrims, it's mentioned that they used to visit Mecca so that they can make their Hajj and visit the holy sites of Islam. So that means the answer is Muslim pilgrims, correct? So this is how we are figuring out the answer and we are getting the right answer. So you come to know, okay, this is the right answer. I mean, there is no other option left. Are we able to find anything related to Chinese Buddhist? I mean, two religions are combined together. No. Chinese merchants, we have Chinese merchants, but Chinese Buddhist, no. Indian Buddhist teachers, anything related to Indian Buddhists from Japan, Korea and other lands. Right, they had the spiritual enlightenment, but nothing is mentioned. Chinese Buddhists, they traveled to India to study with Buddhist teachers. That is what is mentioned. That Chinese Buddhists, they traveled to India so that they are able to study with the Indian Buddhist teachers. But that was between the 5th and the 9th century CE. So this is where the date will help you, right? They are not asking you about the 5th and the 9th centuries. They are asking you about the post-classical era. Right? So this is where the date is going to help you to figure it out the answers. Correct? Okay, now let's move to the 5th one. During the early modern era, a large number of travel books were published. So, early modern era, there were a large number of travel books. And what were they published for? So, let's figure it out. Medieval Europeans, we are talking about the early modern era. So, where are we finding the early modern era? So, yes, I got the word early modern era. Right? Because in the initial paragraph, it was something related to medieval Europeans. After the 12th century, this is what is the numbers they are helping me to find out the answers. Right? So, now let's figure out whether we are getting something related to early modern era in this paragraph, in the highlighted one. So, if the Muslim and the Chinese people dominate the travel and travel writing in post-classical times, European explorers, conquerors, merchants and missionaries took center stage during the early modern era, about 1500 to 1800 CE. By no means did the Muslim and the Chinese travel came to a halt in the early modern times. So, why were they traveling? But European people ventured to the distant corners of the globe, and European printing presses churned out thousands of travel accounts that described foreign lands and people for a reading public with an apparently insatiable appetite for news about the larger world. So that why this early modern era, why these things were getting published and all those things, so that they are able to meet the larger world. And who is in the larger world? So that majority of the public are able to read it. That is for public's interest. Fair enough? So that is why a large number of travel books were published. Why were they published? So that it can meet the public's interest. Right? There is nothing mentioned about the business opportunities, encouraging trips to the new world, recording the larger world. No. So there are bright chances you are getting the keyword larger world over here. So, just out of sheer excitement, you will be answering option D, but that would be wrong. You need to understand what is written about it, and then you will be getting the correct answer, that is option A. Right? So this is where a minor silly mistake will cost you. So beware while marking the answers. It's always advisable when you are after you understand the keyword, where is the keyword located, that is what we did, and then based on the keyword read a few sentences below, before and after that, so that you are able to understand what is the crux and what is the context related to the keyword which is mentioned. Alright. Now the last question, what's the main theme of the passage? What is the passage talking about? So the production of travel books, the literary status of travel books, the historical significance of the travel books, and the development of travel books. So yes, the answer is development of travel books. Now you ask me why. Why did I mention this answer? Because everything was related to travel books. Right? Did they mention the process or the production? No. Did they mention why the literature or the literary sources and everything was important? No. Any historical significance? Yes, they mentioned that in this particular era, these things were done and all those things. But any historical significance is there? Any importance related to the era? No. They plainly mention the development of the travel books, how the books had developed. Right? Like in the post-classical era, during the early modern era, how things had developed. That is what is being mentioned. That is what is the theme of this particular passage. Right? Okay. Now, so this was about the MCQ questions. I hope it was pretty much easy for you to answer them. Right? Okay, now let's read the second passage. Now, the title for the second passage is How to Make Wise Decisions. Okay, so now the instruction is choose the correct letter A, B, C or D. So as mentioned, what are you supposed to do in the answer sheet? It will be mentioned, the numbers will be given, the question numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4 and all this. And you just have to mention, what have they asked? They have asked you, just mention the correct letter. That's it. Nothing else. You are not supposed to write the entire statement. just mention the correct letter. Mind you, write the correct letter in front of the question number. Don't interchange them, right? Also, obviously, if this is happening, obviously your answer is wrong. Okay, so just make sure that you read the question number correctly and answer them correctly. Okay, so let's begin with the second passage. All set, ready? All right. Okay, so the first question. What point does the writer make in the first paragraph? Second question. What does Iger Grossman suggest about the ability to make wise decisions? Third one. According to the third paragraph, Grossman claims that the level of wisdom an individual shows. Fourth one. What is described in the fifth passage? Fifth question. According to the third paragraph, Grossman claims that the level of wisdom an individual shows. So this is easy, that is they are asking you that okay, you need to read the third paragraph. And the sixth one is about the fifth passage, that is the fifth paragraph. What is described in the fifth paragraph? A difficulty encountered when attempting to reason wisely. An example of the type who is likely to reason wisely. A controversial view about the benefits of reasoning wisely. And a recommended strategy that can help people to reason wisely. So let's figure it out. Okay. So this is how lengthy the passage is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So the 5, it has been divided into 5 slides. So this is how lengthy it is. Okay. So now let's answer the first question. What point does the writer make in the first paragraph? So now we are focusing only on the first paragraph. Okay. Okay. So what is he trying to tell you? It's like across cultures, wisdom has been considered as one of the most revered human qualities. Although the truly wise may seem few and far between, empirical research examining wisdom suggests that it isn't an exceptional trait possessed by a small handful of bearded philosophers after all. In fact, the latest studies suggest that most of us have the ability to make wise decisions given the right context. That means what? Right? It is just an assumption that in fact what is happening in reality, that we all have the ability, that most of us have the ability to take wise decisions if we are given the right context, if it is related. So now, what does it tell you? Does it tell you that wisdom appears to be unique to the human race? No, it's nothing mentioned like that, right? A basic assumption about wisdom may be wrong. There are bright chances that B is the answer. C1. Concepts of wisdom may depend on the society we belong to. No, it's mentioned directly that it's like most of us are having this. Most of the people who are staying in the society, everyone is having some intelligence with them, right? And the D1. There is still much to be discovered about the nature of wisdom. It is already mentioned that many of us can make wise decisions if we are given the right context. So there is not much discovery left related to wisdom. So now the B part, that is the basic assumption of wisdom, may be wrong. So that is the correct thing. What is the basic assumption? That it is suggested that it's an exceptional trait possessed by a small handful of bearded philosophers after all. So it is not that only a few people or only the philosophers, they are having the wisdom with them. It's not that. It was an assumption. But in fact, what is a fact? That most of us can make the decision. That means the basic assumption which was made earlier, it may be wrong. So that means B is the correct answer. Alright. Now the second question. What does Iger Grossman suggest about the ability to make wise decisions? So here, based on this particular name only, we can understand, okay, this is related to some, might be a philosopher or might be a scientist who was studying about wisdom or taking decisions or something like that. So we need to figure, for us, he is considered to be the keyword, Iger Grossman. So let's see whether we are getting that name, associate professor. Yes, Iger Grossman is there in this paragraph. Let's see. So what does he suggest? Has he suggested anything? Yes. it is mentioned that it appears that experiential, situational and cultural factors are even more powerful in shaping wisdom than previously imagined. Right? So, what is the first option? It can vary greatly from one person to another. B. Earlier research into it was based on unreliable data. C. The importance of certain influences on it was underestimated. D. Various branches of psychology define it according to their own criteria. So, what is the correct answer? It is talking about how important it is that certain influences on it was underestimated. So, that is what is mentioned, that certain things like the experiential, situational and the cultural factors are even more powerful in shaping wisdom than previously imagined. So, the previous factors, the previous influences, they were underestimated. That is what is mentioned. That means answer option number C is the correct answer. Correct? Okay. Now the third question. According to the third paragraph. So now we have landed on the third paragraph. Okay. So according to the third paragraph, Grossman claims that the level of wisdom an individual shows. So what is the level of wisdom an individual possesses? So what is it? So it seems that it's not so much that some people simply possess wisdom and others lack it, but that our ability to reason wisely depends on a variety of external factors. It is impossible to characterize thought process attributed to wisdom without considering the role of contextual factors, explains Grossman. In other words, wisdom is not solely an inner quality, but rather unfolds as a function of situation people to be in. Some situations are more likely to promote wisdom than others. So what does it say? It claims that the level of wisdom an individual has, it will be different in different circumstances. That is what he has stated. He is stating that as a function of situation, right? So like how people react differently to different situation. In the same way, there are some situations which are more likely to promote wisdom than others. So that is what he is claiming, that yes, depending on the situation, wisdom is also varying in different circumstances. Circumstances is what? It's a synonym for situation, right? So this is what we zeroed down, that option B is the correct answer, right? Now the fourth one, what is described in the fifth passage? So let's figure it out, that whether it is difficulty in accounting, a difficulty encountered when attempting to reason wisely, an example of the type who is likely to reason wisely, a controversial view about the benefits of reasoning, and a recommended strategy that can help people to reason wisely. So let's see. Okay. So it is considered to be a recommended strategy that can help people to reason wisely. So this is considered to be a strategy, right? So a plan is developed so that people are able to reason wisely, that how it is possible to gain wisdom or present wisdom, right? Now, okay. So according to the third paragraph, Grossman claims that the level of wisdom an individual shows, that is what is mentioned, that is repeated. Okay. All right. So these are the 6 questions which we have answered, which was answered in the previous thing itself. Okay. So as we have got the answer, there is no point of reading the rest of the passage also. It doesn't make sense because our answer, we have already answered all the questions. Okay. So now moving to the next thing. Okay. So in the previous session, we had solved questions based on true, false and not given. So based on the same passage, that is how to make wise decisions, there are a few questions based on the question. So let's read the instruction first. On your answer sheet, you are supposed to write true if the statement agrees with the information, false if the statement contradicts with the information, and not given if there is no information given on it. Fair enough? Okay. So the first statement, students participating in the job prospects experiment could choose one of the two perspectives to take. Second one, participants in the couple's experiment were aware that they were taking part in a study about wise reasoning. Third, in the couple's experiment, the length of the couple's relationship had an impact on the results. Fourth, in both experiments, the participants who looked at the situation from a more detached viewpoint tended to make wiser decisions. And the fifth one, Grossman believes that a person's wisdom is determined by their intelligence to only a very limited extent. Okay, so now let's start with the first question. So now when we are talking about the first question, that is students participating in the job prospects experiment could choose one of the two perspectives to take. So where is this thing given, where the students are conducting any experiment and two perspectives were given? So let's see, are we able to find the keyword about experiments? Here Iger Grossman has been introduced. We have already read this passage, so we are sure about this. Is it over here? No, we have already answered the questions from the third paragraph also. Let's go to the fourth one. So here they are coming up with a definition of wisdom and whether it's challenging or not. It's based on that, right? Based on the keywords that is mentioned. Here is the definition. Then Grossman and his colleagues have also found that one of the most reliable ways to support wisdom in our day-to-day decision is to look at scenarios from a third-party perspective. So something related to the third-party perspective has been mentioned, right? And looking at the problems viewpoint, cognitive processes are related to wise decisions. So let's see. Then what are we supposed to do when we are confronted with situations which are like disagreement with a spouse or negotiating? What are we supposed to do? How wisely we need to take the decision at that time? Okay. So here, yes, in this paragraph, we are finding something that, for example, in one experiment, so it is something related to the experiment. So let's read this paragraph. No harm in it. So for example, in one experiment that took place during the peak of a recent economic recession, graduating college seniors were asked to reflect on their job prospects. The students were instructed to imagine their career either as if you were a distant observer or before your own eyes as if you were right there. Participants in the group assigned to the distant observer role played more wisdom-related reasoning, that is intellectual humility and recognition of change, than did the participants in the control group. So what is it about? That students participating in the job prospects experiment could choose one of the two perspectives. So what was it? The experiment was conducted for the graduating college seniors, and they had to imagine about the distant observer. So what are they mentioning? It is something related to the distant observer. It is nowhere mentioned that, you know, that they need to choose one of the two perspectives. Okay. So that means this statement is false. There was no choice given. It was something related. They need to imagine about a distant observer or before your eyes as if you were right there. So that was the experiment being conducted. The next one, participants in the couple's experiment were aware that they were not taking part in a study about wise reasoning. So what were the participants aware of? So the participants in another study, couples in long-term relationships, were instructed to visualize an unresolved relationship conflict either through the eyes of an outsider or from their own perspective. So it is nowhere mentioned that during the couple's experiment they were taking part in a study about wise reasoning. No, it was something related to the unresolved relationship. That means this information is not given to us, right? Now the third one, in the couple's experiment, the length of the couple's relationship had an impact on the results. That is also nowhere mentioned, that based on the duration of the relationship, which has been the courtship period or the duration when the couples were in a relationship, they had that impact on the result. This information is also not given. The next one, in both the experiments, the participants who looked at the situation from a more detached viewpoint tended to make wiser decisions, right? So what was it? So couples in the other's eyes condition were significantly more likely to rely on wise reasoning, recognizing other perspective and searching for a compromise compared to the couples in the egocentric condition. So that means they were more detached. The participants felt that yes, they were more detached. So that means the statement is true. There were some egocentric conditions which were given to them. And the fifth one, Grossman believes that a person's wisdom is determined by their intelligence to only a very limited extent. So how is this intelligence? So your ego-centering promotes something related to ego decentering. Then we are associating wisdom. So yes, I need this information. That we might associate wisdom with intelligence or particular personality traits, but research shows only a small positive relationship between wise thinking and crystallized intelligence and the personality traits of the openness and agreeableness. So that is what is determined, that a person's wisdom is determined by their intelligence to only limited extent. That is what is mentioned. So that means this statement is true. Okay. So now I hope that you are confident in solving the MCQ based questions as well as the true, false and not given questions. Right. So keep practicing. See you in the next session. Bye-bye.